what's up, you guys, and welcome to the podcast Nothing to See Here, episode 2. Let's get it. It's going to be a great and fascinating episode for you guys. This is going to be a long one probably because I got a lot to talk about. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about my education, my school years. A lot of crazy shit happened during this time, and I'm going to get into all of it. Now, you guys know me very well. You know, ever since I was a little kid, I've always enjoyed movies. I always talk about movies. I always enjoyed television shows and so on and so forth. And I also have like one of my, I have a pretty big, decent collection of DVDs and VHS tapes and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about my school years, but before I get into that, I wanted to explain a little thing. It's something that I've always done ever since I was a kid. And it's a weird habit, and I don't know if it's just, I don't even know where this started from, honestly, but it's something that I do to this very day, and it makes no sense. When I was in school, scratch that. I would always imagine that my life was one great big movie. You know, you kind of have your life as a narrative, and you know, you live out your whole life, and it has a beginning, middle, and end. It has its ups and downs, just like a movie does. A movie with twists and turns and lovable or hated characters. You know, I always imagined that there was a make-believe camera on me at all times, and I'm not even bullshitting. I always have this imagination. I have like a really overactive imagination anyway. So I always imagined that there was this giant camera on me at all times, and I never really understood why. It was kind of a sense of comfort to me. I really don't know why that was a thing. But I would create scenes in my head and play them out like in everyday life. Almost like kind of like the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, except there's no camera. As odd and bizarre as it may seem, I still do this to this very day. I would make little shows in my head and kind of act them out. You know, like me and my cousin Colin, we did shows together. One of them was called Noodle and Doodle, where we'd go on these stupid little adventures. It was almost like a buddy type show, kind of like Dumb and Dumber was. Names Noodle and Doodle came from my grandmother and and his mom. You know, my grandmother would call me Doodlebug, and Colin's mom would call him Noodle. And I took the bug out of Doodlebug, and boom, Noodle and Doodle, there you go. We also had this other quote-unquote show called Chris and Chris, where we would pretty much, the whole premise of that show, where we would basically just fight. That's all Noodle and Doodle was. We would just fight. We had another one called Rubik's Man and Rubik's Baby. We were like two superheroes. And we had a bunch of Rubik's Cubes that were like our source of power or some weird bullshit. I don't know. We would jump out of the hallway and go, "I'm Rubik's Man." And he'd go, "I'm Rubik's Baby." And yeah, that was super embarrassing. But I did do other shows too, like in my head. Whenever I'd hang out with Daisy and her family and everything, I did this little thing called The Sims. I would make these titles up, and every time I'd go over there, it'd be like a new episode. I still do this. It's just a thing that I've done ever since I was a kid, since about 2008. I even make seasons and episodes. So I think, you know, from 2008 to 2021, that's what. Let me think. It's over 11, 12 seasons, I think. I'm doing one at work now. I got one where I do at work now called Superstore. We're already in our second season. It's so bizarre, but I do it all the time. It's just, I don't know if it's a sense of comfort that I get out of it. I don't know why. But anyway, getting back to the whole school thing, I also did it at school. You know the show on Nickelodeon called Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide? I sure do, because that was a really good show back in the day. And basically, while I was at school, I did my own version of that show, where I played Ned, I guess. You know, first grade, second grade, they were all its own season, and I would make up DVD covers in my head for each show, and yeah. And like every time school was over, I would you know how Ned would talk to the audience as we're leaving school, you know, when school's over for the day, I'm talking to nobody as we're, you know, closing off the episode. Yeah, that's another bad habit of mine. I always I talk to myself a lot, and I don't know why I do that either. But again, I don't know if it's just something that I've done ever since I was a kid, but it makes no sense. But let's move into my school years. So my first grade year, I'm pretty sure I went to three different schools because I was such a bad kid. I was a mega bad kid. Uh, all the teachers just didn't really like me that much. I had a few teachers that liked me, but I really couldn't help myself. I was a weird kid. I was always acting out or doing something weird. I have ADD, I have ADHD, and I used to take medicine for it. God, I used to have to take my medicine a certain way, which is probably the reason why I can no longer have maple syrup. People's like, why do you don't like maple syrup? Because I used to have to take it with my medicine. I used to have to fill a teaspoon with maple syrup and dump the capsule of my Adderall on it and have to take it that way. And if I couldn't do that, she's like, I'm going to call Grandpa over here to come make you take your medicine. I'm like, no, don't call Grandpa. But, yeah, oh God, it was so bad. And to this day, I can no longer eat maple syrup for that reason. But again, I'm getting off topic. My first grade year, I was in three different schools. And then my second grade year, I was in two different schools because I was just such a bad kid. And by my second grade year, we had a male teacher. I think in my entire school career, I guess you could say, I only had one main male teacher, and his name was we called him Mr. Byswinger. His name was Nathan, I believe, Nathan Byswinger. And he was our second grade teacher. He was a big guy. He was big, muscular, like he was really tall. He was just this big guy, and he was the coolest guy. I swear, he was such a nice guy. And when I made it to my third grade year, unfortunately, he was killed in a car crash. He was jogging early in the morning with no reflectors on, and somebody hit him with their car by accident. And that was probably in 2009. And yeah, it was so sad. I went to summer school two different times around second grade, third grade period. Went to this summer school called Morgan, I believe, Morgan Elementary, smack dab in the middle of the ghetto. It was not a safe place. I definitely recall one day leaving school. We were in the cafeteria, and like three teachers were holding down this kid, giving him a shot, I guess to knock him out or something. I don't know. He was having like a spaz attack or something, and they gave him a shot of something to knock him the hell out. But yeah, I was such a bad kid. Like, for example, in my fourth grade year, I had a friend named Robert Martin. Haven't talked to him recently, but he and I are friends on Facebook, I believe. But there was this one incident in fourth grade where he was just pissing me off. He was getting on my ever loving nerves one day, and I was so angry with him. I took a big handful of thumbtacks and I stuck him in his chair, and I just sat and waited till he got back to his chair. I was expecting him to sit down in his chair and just go, "Ow!" There's thumbtacks in my butt or just something along those lines. But no, instead he sinks his knee into the chair. And so right after that happened, he started screaming bloody murder. He was like, "Ah! Ah!" The whole damn school can hear it. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not good. And the principal came into the classroom and had to rip the damn thumbtacks out of the poor kid's kneecap. And nobody confessed. But until about recess, when I finally said that I did it. I got like a week school suspension for that little stunt. But yeah, that was horrible. And then by the time I made it out of middle school, which was a fucking miracle, we had this one little final ceremony, where you get awards. I never go to these award ceremonies at school because I never won anything, and that's the sad part. If you count kindergarten, I guess, but my first grade year through my fourth grade year, I never won a single award for anything at these little award ceremonies. So I didn't even want to be there for my graduation. I mean, I graduated, they gave me my final thing, and I was like, do I even have to go to the award ceremony? But I did. And the principal gets on the mic, and she's like, this award goes, and I've been sitting there for at least an hour. Nothing's happened. So I was like, man, I just want to get out of here. The principal gets on the microphone and says, this award goes to some, I can't remember word for word of what she said, but she said, this goes to someone who always has something interesting to talk about when you meet them, and always a really cool person to be around, and blah, 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 Austin Taylor. And I look up and go, what? Me? So, and she gives me this green flashlight with my name engraved on it, which I can't find. It's around here somewhere. But she gave me this little green flashlight, I guess as a way of saying, I'm sorry you couldn't get an award because you're such a bad kid. But anyway, moving on to middle school. Middle school was a little bit easier on me. I mean, I liked elementary school, but middle school was a little easier. I enjoyed I hated 6th grade, but I enjoyed my 7th and 8th grade year to a certain degree. But middle school was kind of a rough year for me at the same time because, newsflash, in case you guys don't know, I'm about to reveal something very, very personal to me. I have body dysmorphia disorder. In case you didn't know, probably the reason why you always see me wearing long sleeve shirts, jackets, things that just cover. Ever since I was in middle school, especially when I was in middle school, I had to put on a good bit of weight. I was chubby in middle school, and I would wear this school sweater to school every single day to hide my stomach. And I would also press my binder against my chest when I left class and when I went outside or whatever. This is something I still do. I wear like long flannels or jackets just because I feel comfortable in it. Even in 100-degree weather, I still feel comfortable, in those kind of clothes. And they're always baggy. All my clothes are extremely baggy. They're always like one size up than what I normally would fit in. And then later in the middle school year, it became like this school jacket that I always wore until I left middle school. It made me comfortable, but embarrassed at the same time because I knew that they knew why I did that, and I just kind of tried to hide it. My ADD isn't as bad as it used to be. I don't take medicine for it anymore, so that's a good thing. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to high school because this is where the big clusterfuck happens. One more thing before we move on to high school. Almost forgot. I want to include this. But when I was in my 6th grade year, this is where ATV became a real thing. I used to do another show of mine, inside of a show, I guess, with my hands. You know that Nickelodeon show back in the day where it was like hands? And they were talking like puppets, but they had like little eyes on them. I kind of did the same thing, but there was like this little skit show, and it was called ATV or Austin Television or something like that. And I wrote all ATV all up in my notebook with different logos, and I wanted to make a YouTube channel, and I had this little eraser that was shaped like an iPhone, and I would always pretend to make videos with it. And I was really inspired by the YouTuber Shane Dawson to create like a show or YouTube channel with, different skits and something like that. And I came up with ATV, which used to stand for Austin Taylor's Vision, but now it stands for Austin Television. In case you didn't know, that's what ATV stands for. And it wasn't until about 2013 when I got my iPod 5th generation where I first started my YouTube channel. Called the TAYLW1, and then I changed it to ATV Studios. But we're getting too ahead of the story. We're getting way too ahead of that story. But my high school year wasn't as good as everybody else's. I made it maybe a few months into my 9th grade year, and then I quit. I couldn't bring myself to get up out of bed to go to class. I fucking hated high school, if I could be completely honest with you. And it wasn't until 2017 where I finally decided to go back and try and get my GED, and which I did, and then that was another pain. I was there for like a year before I got out of there, but I was such a bad kid, and I can't explain it, but the whole imaginary camera thing, the whole talking to myself thing, I didn't have many friends in school. I had maybe one or two different friends. So this was my only way of coping or being comfortable or something along those lines. But I would soon but later than regret leaving school. I regret that to to this day. I should have stayed in high school. And because I missed out a lot on social interaction. That's why I'm so shy around new people. Because I've just been so sheltered all my life, and I really can't explain it. I was bullied in school, and I was always the nerd, the geek, and I actually met a girl, and there was this girl in school that I really liked. Her name was Grace. So Grace, if you're watching this, newsflash. I think, well, you kind of already knew anyway. But there was a story. Her name was Grace Hamilton. And this was in 7th grade or 8th grade. It was 7th grade, I believe. We were in this little party at the gym. Because I guess we got up enough points to where we were able to go to this party with music and everything. And then I saw Grace there. So me and a few other people that I was friends with at the time, we were just chatting, and I talked about how much I really liked her. And that's when they got the bright idea to go run up and tell her. I was like, don't go up there and tell her. There's nothing I could do about it. He was already running up there to go tell her. So I couldn't hear what they were saying because they were a good distance away from me. But he kind of whispered in her ear, and she looked over at me, and then her little girly friends around her kind of giggled or something. Typical school stuff. And then nothing happened, and I was like, I'm going to go talk to her. I finally got up the courage because they were hyping the hell out of me. They were finally talking to me. They were talking me in to go talk to her. So I jumped up, ran up there and talked to her. Only problem, the music was so loud in the gymnasium that she couldn't hear me, and I was freezing up. I locked up, and I couldn't talk to her. I was like, and she kind of leaned forward with her ear because she couldn't hear me. I was like, and then I was like, damn it, and I walked away. That was the last time that I talked to her. Last I heard, she's in college now. I see pictures of her on Facebook and Instagram. I follow her on Instagram, so you could probably find her and tell her, why did you treat ATV so badly? No, don't do that. And then Grace, ironically, is the same. I inspired to write On the Other Side. If you heard the book On the Other Side that I wrote, I even made an audiobook of that. The main character is Grace. So it was a love story too. So I was really inspired. That's what inspired me to write the book. One of the inspirations. But yeah, there is my shitty school year. Was it as interesting as you thought it was? Because it's pretty sad if you ask me. But anyways, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. If you enjoy the podcast, there's going to be more stories to come. There's a lot more to talk about. We're going to end this off with Jelly Duck 100's theme. So guys, peace out. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.